Former NFL running back Le'Veon Bell was arrested on Sunday, July 19th, 2026 in Canton, Ohio, following an outstanding felony warrant from Michigan related to unpaid child support. According to the records from Kent County, Michigan, the 34-year-old faces 3 felony charges of failing to pay child support and owed outstanding balance of $112,000 as of February 2026. As far as the arrest details, Bell was taken into custody by the Jackson Township Police Department at the Bolden Village Mall in Canton, Ohio, shortly after completing a public meet and greet and autograph signing at that mall. Current status says he was booked into the Stark County Jail on a courtesy hold while awaiting extradition to Kent County, Michigan. Police body camera footage indicated that Bell was initially unaware of the active warrant. This comes after Bell was also into a case where he was ordered to pay, along with his brother, a total of $25 million due to an abuse case recently in 2025. So Le'Veon Bell is caught up in some headlines, this time for unpaid child support, which is not the best of reasons. If you do have kids and if you're blessed to have kids, just make sure you can actually take care of them and, responsibly take care of them. Not saying that Bell doesn't. I'm not here to criticize his personal life. I'm sure he, from everything that I know about him, as far as the money he's made over his career, the money that he's accumulated through his life, I'm sure that he can take care of his kids. That's no doubt in my mind. And I'm sure that he does. Maybe this was a, misunderstanding. It could be a plethora of things, if you will, why this happened and how this ended up getting to this point. So I'm not going to say that this was because he doesn't take care of his kids or he's a bad father. I would never say anything like that because I don't know him to that point to know if he's a good father or a bad father. But I can make a guess, an educated guess, from the resources that he has and the way he has talked about his kids in the past on various platforms that he's been on. Pause. I can, at least from the outside looking in, I can tell that he really values his kids from what I've seen. So with that being the case, I think that he would do everything that he possibly can to take care of his kids. Now, with this whole thing hitting the headlines or hitting the news and everything like that, allow me to say this. I wish the best for Le'Veon Bell. I don't know how it's got to this point. His lawyer ended up saying that his lawyer said that they were once again unaware of that this was even going on. And Le'Veon on the initial body cam footage did seem unaware as well. As I just read to you guys, I watched the little body cam footage and everything. He did not look like he even knew that this was a thing or knew that this was out or whatever. So he looked like he was unaware of everything going on. So I don't know how this got to this point. I'm just gonna make an educated guess. I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say this. Maybe he was, and this is not, I'm no lawyer, I'm no attorney, nothing. Chill is no attorney, Chill is no lawyer, Chill is no judge. I'm just chill. So I'm just gonna make an educated guess or an assumption and assume maybe what happened was, Le'Veon is, he's doing autograph signings and things like that. And maybe he's traveling to a lot of different places. Maybe he doesn't have time to sit in one place long enough to really realize what's going on about, stuff like the legal side. Maybe he's just traveling all the time, traveling all the time, handling his business, what he has to do. Maybe he's always on the move. He didn't have time to really, sit down and be like, hey, do I have a warrant here or do I have this pending or whatever? Maybe he didn't have time to sit down and really go over those things. That's my assumption. I don't know if that's true or not, but maybe that's why he was unaware, because he didn't have time to even process and know that this was coming, because how would he have time to sit down in one place long enough to really figure that out? So maybe that's what happened. I'm just assuming. Like I said, I'm no lawyer, I'm no judge, but I'm just assuming maybe potentially that's what could have happened. Now, the reason why I will say that I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that he doesn't take care of his kids or anything like that, because the way he talks about his kids on multiple platforms, like I just told you guys, he seems like he really values being a dad, being a father, being in his kid's life, making sure he can take care of them. And he has the resources to do it. Le'Veon Bell, just to let you guys know, over the course of his career, has made about $44 million over his career. So, I know he hasn't had the best of reputation in the NFL, like towards the end of his career and everything like that. And he did manage to leave some money on the table with the Pittsburgh Steelers back in 2018, but I don't believe that he's in a place to where he can't take care of his kids. Now, I will say this before we get into the entire money part, because we're going to break it all the way down. He was just in a case to where he along with his brother had to pay a total of $25 million. So that can definitely take the bag down. So by all means, the bag might not be at 44 no more. So because paying $25 million will take anybody's bag down, okay, for real. And that whole thing, I'm about to read you guys what that was about. So the $25 million thing was a abuse case. So basically, what happened was his lawyer, Le'Veon Bell's lawyer, said that he was never properly served with the lawsuit or any type of legal document regarding the abuse case, but in damages, $20 million was awarded to the victim for emotional distress and trauma. Punitive damage was $5 million ordered as a direct penalty against Le'Veon Bell. And then his brother had to pay $11 million. So his brother ended up paying, Levante Bell ended up paying more than Le'Veon did, because Le'Veon only ended up paying $5 million, and then the damages, ended up being $20 million. So I don't know if Le'Veon ended up paying that $20 million along with the $5. If that's the case, then if Le'Veon ended up paying that $25 million to her or whoever, I don't know who the victim was, but I'm not gonna get into all that because this is, like I said, this is not a legal show, but we're just talking about what's going on around sports, and it just happens to be going on. So, and it's kind of, and it's not fitting, but it's definitely, I guess you would say, ironic that NFL training camps opened as of this week. So it's kind of ironic that this happens, or this whole headline dropped in the week that the NFL training camps opened. But I'm not sure if Le'Veon ended up paying that entire $25 million to the victim, or did he have to pay fines along with that? Now, if he did ended up paying that whole $25 million to that victim out of his pocket, which it does seem like, I'm not gonna lie, if he ended up paying $25 million along with his brother paying $11 million, that $25 million definitely took that 44 down to a point. But it's not going to be to a point where he can no longer take care of his kids or feed his family. It's not to a point of that, because he can give her the 20, or I'm sorry, I keep saying her, give the victim $25 million and he still be good and still be able to live his lifestyle comfortably. Like he shouldn't lose any nights of sleep over giving the victim $25 million. And now about his brother giving $11 million, I'm not sure what his financial situation is, but for Le'Veon, it shouldn't hurt him that much to give her $11 million. I said her again. To give the victim $25 million. But right now, it's a whole thing about him not being able to pay child support. Now, over the course of his career, once again, getting back into the numbers, $44 million over the course of his career. And that's $44 plus million. So he made more, but just to generalize it, we're going to say $44 million, right? Okay, so if he had to pay her $25 million out of his $44 million career earnings, okay. And he also managed to, once again, like we talked about, he left $14.5 million on the table back with the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2018, so he didn't get that money either. But over the course of his career, he managed to make a lot of money, which is why I don't feel like that he's in a position to where he can't take care of his kids. Just to give you guys like a total breakdown, with the New York Jets, he made $28 million. With the Pittsburgh Steelers, he made $16 million. With the Kansas City Chiefs, he made $690,000. With the Baltimore Ravens, he made $259,000. And then with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the last team of his career, he made $179,000. So I don't picture, just my personal view, I don't picture he's in a place now in 2026 to where he can't take care of his kids. I really think maybe this was a misunderstanding. And I don't know, I'm no lawyer, no judge, no nothing. But to just give a generalized overview of the situation, as I heard about it myself, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that maybe this was like a misunderstanding about maybe the payment arrangements weren't set up properly, or maybe he was, because I'm not gonna get into this whole child support thing on on the Chill Report. Like I said, this is a sports show, but this just happens to be going on in sports, so we got to talk about it. But I've heard multiple stories about situations where fathers get into a situation to where they don't have payments set up through the courts. And that's no flack on Le'Veon if he doesn't, but I'm just saying maybe he doesn't have payments set up through the court. And what that does is if you don't have payments set up through the court, you're just paying, for at least from the outside looking in. I don't have any kids, but from the outside looking in, you're just paying. Like if you don't have payments set up, structured payments, to where, I pay this every month. It's on paper. This is what I'm supposed to pay every single month. And it's on paper. Any judge can sign off on it. I don't know if Le'Veon has that. If he's just paying out of pocket, like just to keep the order and keep everyone happy and make sure everyone's taken care of, that can get quite pricey from what I've heard. That can get quite pricey because since there's no legal structure, right? What it tends to lead into, honestly, is like a constant money fund. So I'm just saying, where it could have only been maybe hypothetically $2,500 a month for your child or whatever. Well, maybe only $2,500 a month for your child. If it's not structurally set up to where that's going to be the case, and you're just paying. I've heard situations where ultimately the father ended up only paying like $3,000 a month, but before they set up structural payments, he was paying like $25,000 a month. I've heard situations like that. So if that's the case, maybe Le'Veon is on the move so much and on the go so much, because even though he doesn't play in the NFL anymore, like I just read to you guys earlier, he's still doing meet and greets. He's still doing autograph signings. I'm pretty sure he probably still does card signings, still does, autograph shows, and still does appearances and podcast appearances, which I know he still does, and he still is active in that realm, even if he's not an NFL player, because he still has an active life, right? He still has an active life to where he's out, a lot. He's not in one place that often because he's out doing things, out making moves, out making money and stuff like that, even though he's not an NFL player anymore, but he still has an active life. So with that being the case, maybe he didn't have time to sit down and structure the payments and figure out how he's going to send the payments off. And maybe that's the case, and maybe that's why the payments got behind so much. And then maybe that's why it led to where we're at now, to where it's unpaid child support to the amount that it is. Should be totaling up to $112,000. Excuse me. Maybe that's why. And I'm not sure, like I said, I'm no lawyer, I'm no judge, but maybe that's why. Because I just can't picture, I can picture, but I don't realistically say that Le'Veon is in a place to where he can't pay his child support. I don't think that's the case. Now, I could be wrong. It's all about managing your money. So if Le'Veon didn't do a great job as far as managing his money, and I don't know him well enough to know if he did or didn't, but if he didn't do a great job of managing his money, and he also had to pay that $25 million to the victim, if that's the case, then yes, maybe he is in a place to where he struggles to pay child support, because contrary to belief, that $44 million that he made over the course of his career, it sounds like a lot, and it is a lot, don't get me wrong, But that $44 million that he made over the course of his career can dwindle real fast if he didn't manage that properly. Like, for example, just to give you guys a little overview. Okay, he made $28 million with the New York Jets, right? If he didn't do a good job of managing that $28 million and only managed to keep maybe, I don't know, what, $14 million out of that 28, and then if with the Pittsburgh Steelers, he only managed to keep 7 out of that 16, and out of that 600,000 he made with the Chiefs, he only managed to keep maybe 50K or 100K, and out of that 200K that he made with the Ravens, he only managed to keep 50K. Out of that 100K with the Bucks, he only managed to keep maybe 20. Now, if that's where his money managing mind was at that time, plus missing out on the 14.5 with the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2018, if that was the case, then maybe he is in a place to where he struggles to pay his child support. But even if that's the case, I don't think he's in a place to where he just can't pay child support. I don't think that. I don't, and I'm not just saying that because it's Le'Veon, or I'm talking about anybody in this situation. It could be John Doe in this same situation. And if you would have gave me the numbers of how much money he's made over the course of his career, I would say John Doe has a good chance of still being able to take care of his kids. And I would give him the benefit of the doubt of everything being a misunderstanding over him just not being able to pay child support. So I think that's what it is. My whole reaction to this situation, I'll be honest, it caught me off guard. I'll be honest with you. Because while Le'Veon is I guess you would say a vocal person, you really, at least I really don't hear much about Le'Veon, like, outside of, like, just, like, semi-positive thing, or not, well, positive things, honestly. That's the only time I really hear about Le'Veon. Like, I heard about him a couple years back when he was doing the boxing match with AP, with Adrian Peterson. I heard about that. I heard about when he went back to the Steelers organization, and I heard about how he, like said he missed the Steelers organization or something along those lines. He was saying he missed the Steelers organization. I completely missed the whole $25 million verdict. I was unaware of that. Like I said, that's why it's semi-positive stuff. Except that's a huge mark on his record. I did not know about that $25 million lawsuit and verdict. I was unaware of that. But when we did some research and really looked into things, he does have a $25 million verdict that he had to take care of as well. So I'm pretty sure that took his bag down, like I said. And his brother also had to pay $11 million of that as well. So I'm pretty sure, I don't know what his brother's financial status is, but I'm pretty sure 11 mil would take anyone's bag down. So his brother probably suffered a lot with that as well. But now also with Le'Veon being also hit with this now, it definitely kind of caught me off guard. Because for the most part, like I said, other than the $25 million lawsuit and verdict, Le'Veon is kind of a person who really stays out, from my view, who really stays out of the news. Like, he's not a AB. Now, granted, you can say AB and Le'Veon had the same kind of paths, like as far as being like outspoken players. But AB, Antonio Brown, you're more likely to hear about him in the news than Le'Veon. At least that's how I look at it. Now, both of them you can hear about in the news. Obviously, I just told you about the $25 million lawsuit. But you're probably more likely to hear about AB than Le'Veon. And even with, perfect example, even with the whole $25 million lawsuit, the reason why the courts rewarded the victim with that is because Le'Veon was unaware of the fact that lawsuit was even going on. So when he was, I guess you could say, dumbfounded when he found out the whole verdict or whatever was going on, he never realized that. So the courts awarded the victim. So he didn't even know that was going on. So my view on that is he probably didn't show up to court. He probably didn't, not laugh. It's not a laughing matter, but he probably didn't show up to court. And with that being the case, he wasn't, and like I said, he was never properly served with any documents, any legal signal, any legal representation from the victim that he was even being sued, being in courts, being in any type of legal situation to where he would have known he, will ultimately have to be in court. He didn't know that, so that ultimately led to him having to pay $25 million to the victim in the previous case. In this case, he also was unaware that he had a warrant out for his arrest due to the unpaid child support. So what it seems like to me, because he's unaware of a lot of things, number one, I think he's just on the move so much that he doesn't know about these things, in my personal view. Now, what I think Le'Veon needs to do, just from the outside looking in, is get better, I would say, get better, I don't want to say, legal advisors, because, see, a lot of things that we've talked about, like with the $25 million, just specifically, he could have avoided that, and he could have avoided the child support thing as well, honestly. He could have avoided both of those things, like getting to the point that they got to, if he just would have had those legal advisors in his corner to be like, hey, you got a warrant out for your arrest, you got, okay, or it wouldn't have even got to the warrant out for your arrest if someone just would have been able to let him know, like, okay, you got, child support. Okay, you got to make sure that, okay, let's take care of child support. Let's make sure the money's in the right place for your kids, for your, to make sure everything is taken care of on that front, so you don't get behind in child support, so you don't have to worry about no unpaid child support, unpaid fees, unpaid none of that. And then with the previous case, hey, you got to, you're being served with these papers. You got to be in court on this date. You got to be there on this date. Okay, they're going through a whole investigation. They're doing this. They're doing that. So let's make sure we're present. Let's make sure we're prompt and make sure that we're ready to go, because, you're in a legal situation at this point where Le'Veon would have not known. And maybe if that was the case, he wouldn't have ultimately had to pay $25 million. But since he didn't know, he was unaware, he ultimately had to pay $25 million to the victim. And with this previous case with the unpaid child support, once again, he was unaware, and it led to the unpaid child support arrest. So I think he just needs better legal advisors in his corner, like to let him know when things are going on that he might not know about, might not be privy to. He just needs more people in his corner to where they can advise him on things of what to do and what to, what's going on, because he might not have time to look at all these things and check all these things. So let him know what's going on. Let him know what he has to be present for. Let him know what he has to be in court for. Let him know what he has to take care of financially. Let him know what he has to be on top of in his personal pause, what he has to, not, take care of, and make sure he is making sure he checks off the boxes in his personal life, so he doesn't end up in a situation like this again, where he has to pay money, or where he's arrested, or where he has to pay this huge lawsuit, or or where he's in a court situation or legal situation. Let him know things is going on, so he can jump out in front of these things and take his precautions to properly be ready for those things and prepare for these things, and make sure that he's doing whatever he can to make sure he puts himself in the best position to make sure he is taken care of, along with his family, his children, and just make sure his life stays on track. So I just think he just needs better financial advisors. Once again, with this whole situation happening, I wish the best for Le'Veon. I wish the best for his kids. I don't know what is this situation about the unpaid child support. I don't know what's going on with that. But I will say this: I wish the best for Le'Veon. I hope if he is struggling financially or struggling to, get money or anything like that, I wish him the best. I hope he gets back on his feet very soon. I know he is from what I've seen, he's a great person. He has great character, great character, great personality. And he just seems like just a fun, chill, like great energy dude from the outside looking in. So I just wish him the absolute best. Hope he gets everything back on track and everything good to go. And I just hope he just takes the situation for what it was, and just move forward one step at a time, and just trust that everything will get better and work itself out. And just hopefully now he just will pay more attention to what he has going on as far as in the court system, and against him as far as warrants and everything like that. And so hopefully this will allow him to change some things for the better if things were out of place. So wish him the absolute best. And y'all let me know what y'all think about this in the comments below. And I'm out. Peace.